Hey everybody! Hey everybody! Hey everybody! Everybody! We are back, and I'm going to try and make this more of a regulated podcast. Um, the name is not going to change. This is still the 30th episode, but I just want to get back to my podcast because I really enjoy it. I also wanted to show off my 10 different jerseys that I have. And I wanted to first start with the greatest team of all time. The greatest team that maybe most people don't know, but all 90s kids know growing up, and that is the Toon Squad. We gotta show the greatest team. They had Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. I mean, Daffy Duck wasn't the greatest player of all time, but you know what? It's like Scottie Pippen. Even though that's probably a remark on Scottie Pippen, he was a great player. But anyways, a lot has happened in all sports right now. First of all, might as well start talking about my Boston Bruins. They had a rough start to the season, though they weren't like a terrible team. But they are actually currently third in let's go sorry. They are currently third in their division right now, which is a reasonable spot. Like I think they're on a 2-game winning streak right now, so they're a couple points ahead of the next place team. And there's still look, they've only played 51 games. There's still 30 games left for them to easily get into first or second. But regardless, I'm happy that they make the playoffs. I don't really care where they end up. It's not like you get a first round bye or anything. I get being number one, you get to face the weaker opponent, but look at Tampa all of those years ago. They faced Columbus, and everybody thought it was going to be a cakewalk to the second round, and they got shut out by Columbus, by this random team with a bunch of random players that happened to make the playoffs. Also, I talked about it before, I believe, but rest in peace, Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew Gaudreau, I believe. They were on their way to their sister's wedding, and there was a drunk driver. If people don't know the story, I assume everybody knows the story at this moment in time. But yes, it sent shockwaves throughout the NHL, and I don't think anybody has really recovered from it. But in a positive spin to this, I guess, Columbus has been playing great basically in the name of Johnny Gaudreau. I know Johnny Gaudreau played for Columbus, sorry, yeah. He last played for Columbus. I was thinking for Calgary. But Columbus has that was the fire, the unfortunate fire that made them be a better hockey team. They're using his memory, his energy, his passion for the game. Johnny Hockey. They're using Johnny Hockey's energy to be a better team. And I absolutely hate drunk drivers. Absolutely hate people who think that they can drive while they're under the influence of any kind. I don't care how many times you've tried it. I don't care how many times you've ridden down your dirt road 1,000 times thinking it's all good. It's not. Things can happen in a second, and when you're not coherent, you can't exactly get out of that situation. I don't know exactly what the situation was, like if it was just one of those freak accidents and he happened to be drunk, or if he was drunk, and those are all speculations. I'm still 1,000% blaming the driver, even if he was sober or drunk. I'm glad that they did, I believe, caught the guy. I don't remember ever hearing if it was like he drove away or something. But anyways, on a happier note, yes, Boston is in third place right now. Everybody seems to be playing good. I mean, a lot of these players do have a negative plus minus, but I mean, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the negative of the plus minus, because strictly speaking, for fantasy, you look at like a goalie who, oh sorry, not a goalie. You look at like a player who has all the shots on goal and maybe has 2 goals in the game, but then is in the negatives because he was on the ice for the other team scoring. And it's like, why does he get affected for that? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I took it off because it didn't really make much sense for a player who would be good enough to get points lose those points because he's in the negatives. And the leaders of plus minus negatives, of having the negatives, was McDavid and was Pasternak and was Matthews and was all of those guys, because they're obviously going to be on the ice multiple times, and they're going to be on the ice when the other team scores. I also don't understand why my lighting of this video keeps doing that. I thought I changed it in the settings. But yeah, I'm still happy with how Boston is progressing right now. I'm especially happy with how Mason Lohrei is progressing right now. He has 22 points. I guess you can't see it because my face is in the way. I wanted to try this, put myself in the center of the screen just to see. Mason Lohrei has 22 points, though he is a negative 10. That is currently, I believe, actually minus, he's second. Trent Frederick is a negative 11, though Mason Lohrei is a young defenseman, so I'm still happy with how everything is progressing with him. And then to talk about recent news, the playoffs. Again, we get another Chiefs playoffs, and I'm not going to go into giving my opinion about the Chiefs, because I am a Pats fan, and everybody's going to just be like, oh, well, like, they had allegations of cheating as well. And it's like, I'm not calling the Chiefs a cheater. I'm just saying there was a guy actually who looked at all of the games that the Chiefs had a close quarter, last quarter flag for them, and he said if that flag went against them, the Chiefs wouldn't even have made the playoffs. So I'm not that guy to give conspiracies. I don't think the NFL is rigged. I can see why people think it's rigged because of making connections and whatnot, but the number one thing that I've said is you have to then convince an entire team of NFL players who have worked their entire career to get to this moment, who have worked strenuously, who have worked, given their blood, sweat, and tears to a team that they get to play backup for. But they're in the NFL. They're making millions. They're happy, and that is one of the arguments, is they're making millions. But you would have to convince a whole team and its staff and anybody working for that team to keep a hush on cheating. So I'm not saying the Chiefs are cheating. I'm just suggesting that the refs maybe favor, and that could have nothing to do with the Chiefs. That has everything to do with the refs. That's why none of the comments are saying the Chiefs are cheating. They are saying the refs are cheating, because there is a lot of calls. If you look at them, they're a little, just like, okay, I can, if like that's a little suspect of how that call went. But we to get off that topic, we have a Chiefs against Eagles in the Super Bowl. And I have no idea who to cheer for. I don't really care because I'm a Pats fan, but my mom is a diehard Chiefs fan. My mom's boyfriend is an Eagles fan. So even if the Bills made it, I have a great family friend who's a diehard Bills fan. So I would have had no idea who to cheer for. But obviously I think I'm going to cheer for the Eagles. Both teams obviously have won a Super Bowl, but the Chiefs have won it back to back. And if they win it again, this would be the first time in history a team would ever win it back to back to back, which again just goes into the refs being a little more favorable to the Chiefs. But it was a hard-fought playoffs. I really wanted the Lions to make it, and that would have been a great game, I think, the Lions against the Eagles, and maybe the Lions would have made it. I really hope the Lions don't despair. Don't be disappointed in themselves, I mean. But the weird thing, they immediately fired all of their staff except for Dan Campbell, which is odd because they have a good team. They have a good quarterback. Jared Goff completely turned his career around, playing for the Lions. So we'll see what happens in that department. But I really hope they don't go on a rebuild because they just can't seem to get there. They're right there every time. It's like the Texans. The Texans almost beat the Chiefs. Though I think there was a controversial call in that game too. But we won't talk about that anymore. Yeah, the Texans are the exact same as the Lions. They're a young team, even though Jared Goff is old. Though the team itself has young players on it, and they're ready to fight. And I think that would have probably made a better playoffs is if the Texans and the Lions could have made it. Because if the Texans beat the Chiefs, then it would have been the Texans against the Bills and the Lions against the Eagles, and that would have completely changed everything. But we'll see. We'll have to see next Sunday, not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday for the Super Bowl. I have my odds on the Eagles. I really think the Eagles are going to kind of just push past them. It's going. I also think it's going to be a 50-50 game. Usually most Super Bowls are either going to be a really offensive game or a really defensive game. But if you look at the scores from around the league, it was 28-22, it was 38-29, it was 23-14. And so I think it'll be both. I think it's going to be both an offensive and defensive game. I think, which is going to be interesting because obviously one has to beat the other for somebody to get points. I don't think it's going to be like a 7-0 game. I think this is going to be a very similar score type game. I think it's going to be around 30 points for the winner, unless the Eagles have a game like they did against the Commanders. We'll have to see, honestly. That'd be great. And then there's speculation that if the Chiefs win, Travis Kelce would retire because he is 37. Obviously, players have played further than 37. Tom Brady played until well into his 40s. I think 45 he still played at, maybe somewhere around there. And then got a Super Bowl in his second last year of ever playing football. So maybe Travis Kelce would continue to play. Though quarterbacks do get injured a lot, though they're not as active on the field. Like with a tight end, he's constantly running. He's constantly moving. With a quarterback, unless they're running every single play, which most quarterbacks kind of don't. Actually, sorry, most quarterbacks don't. Some of them do, obviously. Josh Allen runs. Jalen Hurts runs. But yeah, if they can... Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I could understand if Travis Kelce retires if they win or lose because he's now dating Taylor Swift, and I hate the everybody's like, oh, he got famous because of Taylor Swift. It's like, no, he was quite famous before. Like he has 3 Super Bowls. Then he just happened to meet Taylor Swift. And I mean, they seem happy together, and it's obviously creating way more buzz with the NFL, with people who are fans of Taylor Swift. They want to see Taylor Swift, so they watch the game. Having an opportunity to physically see Taylor Swift. The thing I don't like that has nothing to do with Taylor Swift, it just made me think of it. I don't like that they're playing on Christmas. But I get why they did it. They had the best people watching. They had the best I can't think of the word. They had the most people watching because everybody's home. Nobody's doing anything, so like, oh, we'll go to a sports game. But I think I'd be very pissed if I was the players. First of all, it's on Christmas Day that you're having to play a football game, especially if you don't live in that area, which it would be weird if you don't, but you never know. There could be a player, like a backup player, who lives in that area by himself just to save some money. Um, but I'd also be kind of mad if I was a kid and my parents were like, "Oh, we got you tickets to a regular season game on Christmas. We spent all the money on that instead of gifts." It's like, okay, I'm not like a material guy, but as a kid, you would want multiple gifts rather than one big gift that's going to be a great memory and you're going to remember it all of your life. But why on Christmas? It just seems like, I get why, for the ratings, that was the word. They had the best ratings. That's why they did it. They knew everybody was home and doing nothing, so why not put a game on? But I didn't like that they did it on Christmas. Um, but we'll have to see what they continue to do. I would kind of hope they don't do it on Christmas anymore, but I would assume they are going to continue doing it on Christmas. But yes, the Super Bowl is in two Sundays from now, which is interesting because it I would have thought it would make sense to do weekend playoffs and then the next weekend do the next round and then the next weekend do the next round, so they get 2 weeks off. Oh, they get, yeah, 2 weeks off, I think, before the Super Bowl, which I would understand, like, oh, you're giving the players time to rest, but it's like, that's kind of the point of football, is like you're constantly in the action. So we'll see what happens there. But also, speaking of football and reverse talk, we're going to talk about the draft, because I'm sick of talking about the playoffs and not seeing my team in there, the Patriots. So, up until basically just now, before I started this podcast, everybody had a mock draft of either Cam Ward, or I'm not going to know how to say his name correctly, but Sanders, as one or two, or vice versa. Now, this one is quite surprising. I understand why from reading the little description, but this guy, Daniel Jerome, has Abdul Carter going first, which is an interesting take. Here, I'll move over my guys so I can... Which is an interesting take, because, yes, the Titans do have a quarterback in Will Levis, but I don't know how great Will Levis is. I think he's 24. I think he's 25. I don't remember exactly how old he was. He was picked later in the draft, though that can has nothing to do with skill. Tom Brady was picked later in the draft. There's 1,000 other players who were picked later in the draft. Though everybody's probably comparing him to Josh Daniels, to I can't remember his first name, to Daniels on Commanders. But the good thing with the Commanders is they had everything but a quarterback. And everybody was saying, oh, the Patriots should have drafted Daniels, they would have been in the playoffs right now. The Patriots don't have the same team that the Commanders have. The Patriots had a terrible O-line. They need to fix that first and then worry about everything else. Obviously, they were picking third, so they kind of just said to themselves, let's just pick a quarterback. Like, let's get a guy. And they're not going to trade up to get a 24-year-old quarterback. They're going to get the 19-year-old quarterback and actually build off of him. And if the Patriots make the Super Bowl and do the exact same thing the Commanders did next year, everybody's going to be like, see, they chose the right quarterback. So it's all subjective based. And the Patriots have probably one of the best new staffs I've ever seen. They have the most money to spend, and they have a top 5 pick. They could have had the first overall pick, but they lost the last game. Though, I think that's a little better for them, because now, if they had the first, they would be the first team ever that every team knows exactly what they're going to do. unless they would have taken Carter. But every team knew they would have traded that first. Now, with picking fourth or third, I believe, it's up in the air if they're going to pick a player or if they're going to trade. I originally said trade down, get some picks, draft an O-lineman. But now watching some of the other teams having a star edge and having a star defensive player getting to the quarterback and giving them zero time, I'm on the train of drafting Abdul Carter. Though, this throws a wrench in the plan, kind of, but not really. That if the Titans draft Abdul Carter, then obviously I also forgot about Travis Hunter. I'm off the train of getting Travis Hunter. He's a great player. He's a great cornerback. He's a great wide receiver. But I'm completely off the train. They don't need a wide receiver this high, this quick in the draft. They drafted wide receivers last year, and everybody complains that they weren't good. But it's like May didn't have time to throw to any of the wide receivers. That's why they need offensive O-line, O-tackle, O-line, like basically any of those guys. But that's why I think the Patriots should draft a generational edge tackle, because it'll help their offense out. But now, see, this one is the secondary option that is probably going to happen, but either or I'm completely happy with. If Abdul Carter is here and the Patriots pick him, great. If the Patriots if Abdul Carter is not here and they trade down and draft a no tackle, great. Or if they stay where they are and Abdul Carter is taken still and they draft Campbell or they draft another O tackle, great. I'm completely okay with honestly whatever they do. They know that they need, I believe they know that they need O-line tackle and they need wide receivers and they need defensive help. But they did draft wide receivers. They drafted only offense last year. So I think they should draft only defense this year. But they do definitely need some top O-tackle in the draft. I personally think they will go for O-tackle, but we'll have to see. They might take Travis Hunter, because there could be a chance that Travis Hunter is available for them. But we'll just have to see. Yeah, we're just gonna have to see. I think the draft is going to play out how most people think. If I was the Titans, I would probably take a quarterback. It's not every day when you get Deion Sanders' son in the draft, though a lot of people think he might be overhyped because his dad is the coach, and the track record of players becoming coaches hasn't been the greatest. Though Mike Vrabel, he hasn't been an amazing head coach. Obviously, if he was, he would be still on the Titans and the other teams that he's coached for. Though it's all subjective based, anyways. Too, like with the Chiefs coach, he was on the Eagles, I believe, and had like a really crappy record, and so they fired him, and then he went to the Chiefs and like completely turned them around. So it's just really depending on the type of players you get, the type of other staff that you have, and I am actually glad that Vrabel hired his own staff, because then he had a say. He gets to know those people, and I believe like at least 3 people that he's hired came from the Titans, so he already has a relationship with those people. So we'll have to see what he does. I'm excited to see what happens to this team. I think I'm gonna make a bold statement right now. I'm gonna say they're gonna make the playoffs. I'm gonna say they're gonna make the wild card. A bolder statement would be they're gonna be third in their division. Though we will have to see. But I truly believe they could make the playoffs if they draft perfectly, and basically, let's say they draft O-line, wide receiver, and an edge. Basically, in free agency, they have all of this money. They can just overpay for guys. They can convince guys that this is an up-and-coming team, like we need some good players to get there, and we will get there. And I think this team could convince even veteran-type players. Maybe a lot of them would have to be overpaid, but hopefully it's on a shorter contract. But I believe that free agents are going to want to come to this team depending on the draft. The draft and the free agency do have a lot in common, because a free agent, depending on how that particular team drafts, might decide against or might decide for that team. Let's say the Patriots completely failed with every single one of their picks. A free agent, let's say a lineman free agent, would decide not to come to the Patriots because the staff doesn't understand what it's doing. But if the Patriots staff has a great draft, then maybe that O-line tackle will be like, okay, like they drafted some pretty good guys. They know how to build them up. I think this would be a good team for me to go to. Like, I'll protect the young quarterback and hopefully stay here for a couple years. But that's all subjective based. But I do truly believe this team could make the playoffs. They at least could improve from last year. I believe the record was like 4-12 or something. Maybe not even that. Maybe it was less wins than that. All they have to do is have more than 4 wins, and they didn't start May until halfway through the season. And the other player I totally forgot to talk about was Milton. Everybody was like, oh, let's trade May and keep Milton. It's like, well, Milton had one great game. And what I really hope for is build up Milton, build up May, so they have this connection together, and they have kind of a QB rivalry. It doesn't matter how great of friends you are. You and your backup are always going to be against each other. It's same thing with Brady and I already forgot his name, but really the really famous player on the Patriots. Him and the other quarterback, they were best of friends. They're still friends to this day, but in the back of their mind, they always knew that if I play better than the other guy, I'll get to play. And that's exactly what happened with Brady. The first guy got injured, and then Brady stepped in. If Brady had a terrible game, the Patriots would have found somebody else. They would have started the other quarterback or signed a quarterback, and then the story of Brady wouldn't have been Brady. He would have gone to play baseball. He did actually get drafted in the 9th round as a catcher to, I believe, Cleveland. I could be wrong about that, but I might be wrong about that. But it's all subjective based, but I hope and I believe that the Patriots know where their needs are, and it's O-tackle, defense, and I don't know if I would say wide receiver. I would say draft wide receivers, but later in the draft. There's a couple good names, like Golden, not a wide receiver, but there's a tight end. He's got like a matching name, and I forget. But there's a couple wide receivers later in this draft. I think early in the draft, let the Patriots or the Patriots will draft either an O-tackle or an edge. But we'll have to see what happens. They could easily draft Travis Hunter, though. Everybody wanted them to draft Marvin Harris last year, and they drafted Drake May because you kind of need a quarterback to throw to a wide receiver. But now that they have a quarterback, there is a chance they could draft Travis Hunter. Will I be upset at it? Probably not. I'll still be a Patriots fan at the end of the day, though I wouldn't think it's that high of a need because you kind of need O-tackle to protect your quarterback. So I truly believe they might go for a safe pick and draft an O-tackle. I really wanted them to draft Joe Alt last year, but he was too high of a draft pick. And if anybody who doesn't know who Joe Alt is, he's 6'7". I don't think he's like a huge guy. I don't think he's like 400 pounds. but he's just a big O-line tackle. But yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how the Boston season goes. We'll have to see how the rest of the playoffs go. I know it's just the Super Bowl left, but we'll see. I'll probably be watching it. I think I'll be home for that because that specific day. Oh no, I was gonna say it's my sibling's birthday, but it's actually a couple days before, and my other sibling is a couple days after. But yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah, I guess that's it. We'll have to see how Boston does with the last 30 games remaining. We'll have to see how the Patriots draft. I'm really hoping they know exactly who they need to draft. And we'll have to see how the NFL playoffs go. But yeah, remember, you're awesome, stay awesome, rock on. Peace.